Hello and welcome to the Weighing Room podcast, where today we are back with myself and Frankie Foster to go through the 10 live races on ITV Racing on Saturday, with racing from Ascot SHERGAR Cup Day, Haydock, Newmarket and the Curragh, where the Group 1 Phoenix Stakes is the feature race of the day. Frankie, last week, me and you went through the 5 days of Glorious Goodwood, some great action, but the rain that came down across the last few days made it very tricky from a punting perspective. This week, we've got 4 different tracks. The ground seems to be a lot better than what it was. What are you looking forward to most?
Yeah, it's a good weekend. The SHERGAR Cup's obviously good fun. It's another tricky punting event, really, with all the big handicaps and different jockeys riding for different trainers in the teams as well. So it makes for good watching, certainly. I think the SHERGAR Cup's a nice one to sit back and on a Saturday afternoon just enjoy in front of the telly. But probably from trying to find a winner's angle elsewhere in a couple of these group and listed races, hopefully we can find some in them, because I think they're slightly more straightforward than the racing at Ascot, albeit good fun.
Yeah, definitely. It's four great tracks to have a look at. A few races from each, with Ascot having 6. And I hear you're getting into a bit of golf, aren't you, Frankie? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, it's been a crash course in golf. I caddied a mate of mine on the Tuesday, played 9 holes yesterday or day before, in prep for a SHERGAR Cup golf day. So let's hope I don't embarrass myself too much, but I'm not feeling too confident. I was asked for my handicap and I said it doesn't exist. So make of that what you think.
It's all a bit of fun. It's all a bit of fun. Right then, we'll get stuck into this week's podcast then. And the first race we're going to look at is from Ascot. It is the 135 SHERGAR Cup Dash over 5 furlongs. Frankie, like we mentioned with the SHERGAR Cup Day, it's very different to any others. It's more of a team event, like the Racing League on a Thursday evening. You see a lot of the best jockeys from all around the world come round. And a lot of them haven't sat on the horses before, which makes it slightly more difficult. But you then outweighing that you've got some of the best jockeys on board your horses. So in the first race, who have you gone for?
Yeah, I'm gonna just keep this pretty simple at the top of the market with Rogue Lightning, who was so impressive last time out at Doncaster. I'm just hoping that the rest of the field hasn't flattered Rogue Lightning, but I don't think that's the case, because Rocket Rodney was in behind, who knows a decent sprinter rated 96. And the way that Rogue Lightning travelled into the race suggests to me there's more under the bonnet. And that will be the question, really, because this is probably, well, it is more competitive. They will go a bit quicker. Don't know if we're hoping that he can cruise in the same sort of way. And then I think we'll find out in the finish when a couple of the others also hit the button that have been cruising, and we'll see how much speed there is for Rogue Lightning. But it was really, really impressive, I thought, last time out. And as we always mention, you've got to catch these sprinters in good form. When they're hot, they usually put in a couple of decent runs. So pretty much basing it off that Doncaster run last time out, I thought it was really, really good.
Yeah, gone up to a mark of 101, but like you said, with these sprinters, they can just go on a bit of a roll. So if in the same form for Tom Clover, Rogue Lightning has got a big chance. I'll go for one a little bit more down the market, and Bond Chairman for Brian Smart and João Moreira taking the ride. A horse, if you look through, has an absolutely superb record at Ascot, finishing 4th of 27 as a juvenile in the listed Windsor Castle Stakes at the Royal Meeting in 2021. He was then seen for the first time in 2022, back at Ascot again, at the Royal Meeting again, and he was 4th of 27 again, this time over the same course and distance in the Palace of Holyrood House Stakes off a mark of 93. He's been seen twice more at Ascot. Last season, he finished 2nd of 20 in a really good Class 2 handicap over course and distance again, when a neck behind Mountain Peak. And then in the run after that, he was a close 4th of 10 in a very similar event. So his form at Ascot over 5 furlongs is absolutely solid. He started this season off at Doncaster when getting back to winning ways, off a mark of 95, over 5 furlongs. He was then seen back at Ascot, finishing a good 3rd in a Class 2 handicap over 5 furlongs off a mark of 98. He runs off the same mark in this event. So he's got every chance of going close again. He's 7-1 in the market currently, a nice each way price. I think he can hit the frame again. Like I said, SHERGAR Cup Day is very, very competitive. So in the first, I thought I'd just keep my powder dry, try and find one that's going to hit the frame. He's got bags of Ascot form, and at 7-1, you can play him each way all day. So for Brian Smart, Bond Chairman is going to be my first selection of the afternoon on Saturday. We're staying at Ascot for their next event, and it sees the SHERGAR Cup Stayers handicap over 2 miles. Frankie, we've got an old favourite of ours in here, Zoffy, who we've put up a few times. He's at the top of the market, 4-1. The Grand Vizier, 6-1. Berkshire Rocker, 13-2, and then 15-2. Bigger the rest. I thought Zoffy was very, very interesting, being dropped £1 for his run last time out and having good form at Ascot. But are you taking him on?
No, I'm not going to. I love this horse. He's brilliant. Like you said, one of our old favourites, and he always puts in a good run. You mentioned there, dropped £1 in the handicap, has good Ascot form. I know that they love this horse at home, and I think this is kind of the perfect sort of event for him. I don't know what the going will actually be, but at the moment I'm looking at soft, and he certainly goes on soft ground. I don't know if it will that'll change overnight by the time we get to Saturday, but he pretty much ticks a lot of boxes. He's a very consistent runner. He will go on the ground. Handicap wise and weights wise, he's bang there with a chance. I think again, it's another favourite of being brave for SHERGAR Cup Day, starting off with 2 favourites. But I love this horse, and I really hope he puts in a good run.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm with you on Zoffy for this one. I'm going off the basis that there is going to be soft in the description, but I don't think it will be soft, because I've looked at the forecast and it said it's going to be very dry till now, but they have had a lot of rain this week. So I reckon good to soft, maybe good to soft in places. They're definitely going to be soft in the description, I think. And the good thing about Zoffy is he handles both. You've seen him on soft ground, you've seen him on good ground. He's ran very, very well. Obviously, last season, when moving from Philly Hobbs, going to Hugo Palmer, he won the Northumberland Vars, didn't he? And that was the race that really, really put him on the map as a stayer on the flat. He's continued his form this season. Obviously, he went into the lower 90s last season, and he's run at Newmarket in the Cesarewitch Stakes, finishing 4th behind Run for Oscar. You got Vino Victrix, Not So Sleepy in there. That was another solid run. That was off a marker 93. That was out of 21 runners. He showed very, very good form last year. This season, he might not have been in the same form, but he still ran very well on 2 out of his 3 runs. He's run on soft ground in the Chester Cup when only getting beaten by neck late on by Metier was horrifying, really, for Zoffy, because he looked the winner all the way until just the line. And obviously, you know Metier how much he loves soft ground. So that was a massive run from Zoffy, and that was off a marker 93. He's run over 2 mile 4 at the Royal Meeting in the Ascot Stakes. He finished 6th. I think if he runs to that standard, it's good enough in this race. I really, really do, because I know in this field you've got the likes of Grand Vizier and other horses, Post Impressionist, the Very Man's interesting, but they're not at that caliber. They're not.
It's only three lengths 6 as well.
That's what I mean. It's not at that caliber that he's been running at. Yes, last time he blew out, but for a horse that has ran really consistently for a long period, probably the last 18 months, I'm going to allow him that run in the Northumberland Plate. I'm going to say, you know what, that's a bit of a blip. You can get caught behind a wall of horses in that race and never really run your true race. I think that's what happened. For me, back down to a marker 94, £1 lower than his 3 length 6th in the Ascot Stakes. Dropping back to 2 miles, I think he's perfect, because I think 2 mile 2 is probably his optimum. I think Zoffy's going to take the world of beating here, and I think he's going to bounce back to form in a big way. So nice we're agreeing on the second race of the afternoon at Ascot. We're going to go to Haydock now, because we like to do it in time order, try and keep it regimented. And on Saturday, the first race from Haydock is the BETFRED Play Fred's 5 million handicap over a mile. This doesn't look the easiest contest in the world, Frankie, because there's a lot of horses in here that could have a lot of potential. So who are you going for?
I'm going for one going the other way, which is I'm hoping Fantastic Fox is absolutely falling off a cliff in terms of his handicap mark, and I think I've either put him up or certainly he's been one of interest the last couple of times, and this is kind of one of those last attempts with this horse. I'm convinced there's some more ability here, and hopefully having a crack around Haydock, a track he's won at before, can bring that out, because he won here early on and put in a really good performance on soft ground that day over the mile early on in his career. Hasn't quite gone on since being gelded. Did put in a half decent fifth here though, which was okay again over the mile trip. That was off a mark of 99. Comes here off a mark of 89. So £10 lower, which is obviously as a result of what he's done this season. It hasn't quite been up to scratch. But he did get up into those high, nearly, well, he was rated 100 at one point. And I don't know why it hasn't happened for him. I've followed him the last couple of times and thought that he was in with a chance. Kind of a last-ditch attempt, but a mark of 89 at a track he's won before, he'll be fine. He's raced there on soft and good. There's no issue ground-wise. Andrea Azzini gets the ride. I'm really hoping he can put in a good performance. And at 14-1, I'm looking at now, fairly confident he should hit the frame.
Yeah, 14-1 could be a big price. I actually put this horse up for the last day at Goodwood, but obviously the racing got abandoned. But I am not with him today. But I think 14-1 is a big price if he bounces back to form, because his mark of 89 could really underestimate him. Andrea Azzini as well, riding really, really well, isn't he? Taking the ride. Had a really good week at Goodwood last week. Like I mentioned when I was previewing this race, I've gone for potential more than probably the older boys in the field. Like Isla Jura at the top of the market has obviously won twice. Could be better than a mark of 97 still, but it's tough. I think Cathab is another one in there that definitely in this sphere off a mark of 85 has got more to come. But the one I've gone with is the really unexposed Poet Master for Carl Burke. He's only been seen twice to date. Sheikh Mohammed Abaid, Al Maktoum's done really well with his horses this season, especially with Carl Burke. And I think they can have a really another nice one here. With this gelding, he made his debut in June at Musselburgh when impressively landing a maiden stakes. That was over 7 furlongs. Yeah, it was a really, really good performance because horses on debut, obviously they can take a lot to learn, but he learned on the job and it was very, very good performance, I thought. But what he did next time out at Haydock, over the same distance as 7 furlongs, he absolutely bolted up by 5 lengths under a penalty. And what I loved, it was the way that he went from the front, horses came to attack him, and they just gave him a flick down the back of the neck, and he absolutely pulled away. He has been given a mark of 92 for his handicap debut here, which people could see as steep, but he's going up to a mile, yes, which I think will be better for him because the way he hit the line was absolutely brilliant. But I think this horse is going on to be a group, maybe not a Group 1 horse, but maybe a Group 3, Group 2 listed level. And I think 92 might underestimate him still. So I know a lot of people might say, bloody hell, it's only his 3rd run. It's 92 is quite a big mark for a really unexposed horse. But I think they've got quite a nice one here. So I'm taking the chances that his potential will come to fruition. And I think cream will rise to the top with Poet Master and he'll make it a hat-trick of wins. And at 5-1, you're getting a good price to find out just how good he actually is. So Poet Master for me in that race at Haydock. Another tricky event from Ascot is the SHERGAR Cup Challenge over 1 mile 4 furlongs. Another tricky handicap to get stuck into. Frankie, who are you going for?
It is, yeah, and I'm going, I think, with top weight, yes, Max Mayhem, who is rising through these sort of handicaps. And I think this, or in my opinion, is one of those kind of solid each way bets. Whether he can go and win the race, I'm not sure, but he's putting 2 good performances over course and distance. Previously, they were both off a mark of 97. Comes here off that raised mark of 100 and top weight. But I know that handicappers obviously work in relation to the other horses. But I do like to see a horse that has at least carried a lot of weight, and he carried 9 stone 13 last time over C&D and finished second, put in a good performance. He's very ground versatile. He's raced on pretty much every ground and it doesn't seem to affect him too much when he was over in Ireland. He's been racing on heavy. The last twice was on good to firm, good to soft. So he's double figures at the moment. He's got course and distance form. He's improving with every run. This will only be his 4th start for the new trainer. He does have to defy top weight. That's the only negative. But this is, I think, a solid each way bet. I think he will be there or thereabouts.
Yeah, Max Mayhem was one I really did look at. 11-1 could be a really, really nice price. It's just in being top weight in this field. And I just found one better than him. But he's obviously got Ascot form. He's run at the Royal Meeting in the Duke of Edinburgh Stakes. That was a really, really solid run. Really didn't finish far behind Akita Sushi that day, just over 3 lengths. So yeah, I can see the case for Max Mayhem, definitely. The one I've gone with, and I was a bit nervous about this selection because I was actually going to be close to a no bet because I was waiting for this horse to be declared for this race, as in he was reserve. He was in 11. Obviously, there's only 10 runners in there in the SHERGAR Cup, and he was in 11. Anyway, I did the write-up, and I thought, you know what, let's take the chance, wake up Friday morning and see. Anyway, I checked Thursday evening, he was in. So Pride of Priory for William Haggis, and I know he's got the top one at 3-1, Larry Kale, which I have put up before with Joe Moreira riding, but I think the market's got it wrong. I think Pride of Priory should be favourite here, or even joint favourite, Larry Kale. Frankie taking the ride as well. But I'm so glad this horse got into the race and will be bottom weight here off a marker 92. He bought up the hat-trick of wins in this race last year off the same marker 92, which I just thought stood out to me massively. And I know he hasn't ran to the same standard this season, but getting back to a marker 92 on better ground, this horse, I think, could have been set up for this race massively. Like I mentioned, that hat-trick was 3 brilliant performances and a brilliant performance in this race at Ascot. He then went off the boil. He went up to a marker 98. He looked to massively be in the grasp of the handicapper on his final 2 runs of last season, and that carried on into this season. He went to Kempton on seasonal debut when finishing 9th of 13. He didn't finish that far behind the winner that day, but he never looked like he was getting involved, and it just showed that he wasn't able to race at that mark. He was then sent to Ripon on soft ground when going off favourite, and again he underperformed, being last. He was then dropped to a mark of 93, and he finished a much better 3rd of 7 over the same course and distance he ran over last time, again on soft conditions. But that was a step back in the right direction. Dropped back to a marker 92, the same mark he won this race off last season. I think he's just been set up, returning to quicker ground. He's going to be a massive positive for him if I think what happens with a bit more good in the description. So I think Pride of Pirate 4-1 with Frankie on board. He's a fairly good selection if you're looking through, and I hope I've found that nice angle that he can run to that marker 92 again. The feature race of the afternoon from Haydock we're going to have a look at is the Group 3 BETFRED Rose of Lancaster Stakes over 1 mile 2 furlongs. Frankie, the feature from Haydock, this race has seen some decent winners in its past. And this year we have Al Arsi at the top of the market at 15-8, King of Conquest for Godolphin at 3-1, Savvy Victory at 6-1, Midnight Mile at 7-1, Phantom Flight 17-2, El Drama 14s, and Classic Causeway, the big outsider, at 33s. The problem I found with this race is that there's a lot of horses in here that are so frustrating, but they've got a lot of talent. It's just who turns up on the day. And Al Arsi at the top of the market doesn't say that more than any other horse, does he?
Yeah, I think you're almost betting that Al Arsi turns up here. Are you willing to take 15-8, 7-4 that Al Arsi is going to run his race? I'm of the opinion that he will, but I certainly agree that he is clearly a tricky horse. He's put in bad performances. He's had a 420-day break, but he does have talent. He's a multiple group winner. His recent run suggests that he is back to good form, and I'm hoping that he can actually build on that. You know, he's running to a rating of 120 at one point in his career, second at Newmarket in a Group 2. He obviously, after that 420-day break at the July course, just didn't turn up at all. And maybe after that, a couple of people might be thinking maybe he's not going to continue. You know, after a big break, comes back, puts in a bad performance, and that could have been the end of his racing career. But Newbury the next time didn't look as good as ever, but looked like he was back on track. And I think, and I hope that was actually a stepping stone to even more to come from this horse. And you'd hope, especially if you go back to what he did in the start of his career, that he could be winning a listed race like this or Group 3 race like this. So I'm sticking with the favourite, but he does need to be on form. But no better man than Mr. Haggis.
Yeah, I was a massive Al Arsi fan earlier on in his career, and it was just the times where he travelled through the race beautifully. He got to the leader and then couldn't pass him.
Yeah,
couldn't pass her, and that's what made this horse a really frustrating for me. And I haven't been able to be on side with him since then. and I'm taking him on again. And it's not because he's not a talented horse, because what he showed last time, drifting like a barge in the market, but traveling beautifully, and going back to 1 mile 2 was obviously perfect because he beat Phantom Flight really well. But King of Conquest and Savvy Victory, I think, offer a little different test compared to Phantom Flight, who's in here again, who we've talked about a lot, that really hasn't hit the heights that I think they thought of. And he's ran well, but he hasn't ever really looked like winning. King of Conquest is another one I find frustration. Even though he's won 3 times already this season, his run last time was far below his level that you wanted to see him keep improving. Yes, the listed Wolferton Stakes is a very, very tough race, and the horse he finished behind are not bad horses at all. But that day, he only finished half a length behind Saga. And if you're looking back through a bit of form, the one I've gone with, not just for this reason, but Savvy Victory is the one I've took a chance on for at Zenny and Simon Woods. Like I mentioned, because the top 2 have got little holes in them, I just thought I'd take a little bit of a chance of one at a bigger price in the market. He finished last season in really good form when winning a Class 2 handicap over 1 mile 2 furlongs at Goodwood in really, really good style. He then went into the Cambridgeshire, and the Cambridgeshires are obviously notoriously known for being a very, very tough race. And he ran an absolute cracker. He finished 5th of 28 that day. Majestic obviously went and won it. But the horse he finished ahead of have gone on to do really, really well this season. And that was off a mark of 99. His last run of this season, of the season, came at Newmarket, back up to 1 mile 2 on soft ground in the listed James Seymour Stakes, where he was well beaten behind Ottoman Fleet and Raw Fleet for Godolphin, but they were superb that day. It was on soft ground, but he still finished better than the rest in 3rd. So I thought he made a really, really strong end to the season. This term, he needed his first run. He went to Chester he then went to Chester on soft ground. Again, he probably didn't hit the heights he did last season, but he still ran really well. He finished 2nd behind the improving Pride of America, giving weight away in a handicap. His 2 runs after that have been disastrous. Class 2 handicap at Epsom's Derby meeting. I don't think he handled the track at all. He then went in the listed Wolferton Stakes at the Raw meeting, and he finished last on both occasions. But I think he's got excuses for both races. If you look back through his passages through the races, he was then last seen getting back to form at Sandown in the listed Gala Stakes, absolutely bolting up by 2 lengths. The way he picked up, the way he was gritty, he's one of the first off the bridle, but the way he stayed was absolutely brilliant. And that was what was taking for me, because if he goes to the front and stays like that, and Al Arcee gets to him, I don't think Al Arcee will pass him. And like we mentioned when we were speaking about it earlier, that he's got the tendency, Al Arcee, to get there and never really find more, which is really frustrating, where Savvy Victory will keep finding for you. Yes, this race is a lot tougher, and he's taken on a different caliber of horse in King of Conquest and Al Arcee. But I just thought off that angle, if he can stay gritty, he stays the 1 mile 2 really, really well. Obviously, well, it's 10.5 this is, and that'll be perfect for him. Just thought Savvy Victory at 6s was interesting in a race where I thought was slightly muddled, because you are banking on Al Arcee to run his race.
Al Arcee, yeah, he needs to almost be a good bit better than these, doesn't he? Doesn't want to get into a scrap with them, and if they rise to his level, then yeah, I do agree. I'm hoping that he is just a little bit too classy and can not win easily, but can go past them and just be that little bit better. But
he definitely could be there. He definitely could be. You could see Al Arcee winning this by 5 lengths on the bridle. You could, but then you could see him getting into a battle and losing out.
A bit weak in the finish,
yeah. So it's one of them where we're obviously just trying to predict, and we are guessing. And I think it's a very guessy race, because it could unfold in numerous different ways, that one. Right, one of the races of the day at Ascot is the SHERGAR Cup Mile. Always a tricky one. We see a lot of old faces here. Frankie, talk us through your pick.
Yeah, I am going for a horse I put up a couple of times, maybe even last season. And to be honest, this was by process of elimination. As I'm talking out loud, I think I might have an each way Trixie on a couple of these, because again, this is a selection that I think will run well. Whether or not Empire State of Mind can go and win the race is another question, but you'd expect him to be there. He has decent form over the mile and on straight tracks, both at Doncaster and at Ascot. Goes on soft ground, probably is better on soft ground, to be honest. Hasn't won a race in a while, not since a mark of 87. and that's been slowly climbing and now runs off of 98. But there has been plenty of seconds along the way. He is pretty consistent over a straight mile and on the ground. So again, you're looking at, he's 8-1 I'm seeing now, you're looking at a decent each way bet that should be in the frame. I'm not convinced he is the best in the final parts of the race, which speaks volumes for why he has so many seconds to his name. But there was nothing else in the field really screaming out at me. So maybe this is his chance to go and win. And you know, due to the way that the SHERGAR Cup is ran, fortunately, he also is ridden by Frankie Dettori. So got a lot of things going for him, and you know, this might be his chance to get his nose in front.
Yeah, this is a horse you have put up a few times, isn't it? Empower better mind. Dettori on is a massive factor. But I actually, it's weird because I actually found this race more simpler than others because I thought a lot of the fields weren't very good. So I thought Perotto and I thought Perotto at 11-4 was actually quite a decent price because if you look next best, he's 8-1. But I don't know, when I'm saying that, it sounds weird because this horse is one thing, he's not consistent. So for me to say, I think he's got a very, very good chance in this, and he's 11-4 favourite, and that's not bad a price. He's quite strange because he's chucked in so many bad runs, but also chucked in some good runs. But he chucked in so many bad runs. But I just think he's the best horse in the race, and I hope he shows that. A winner over this course and distance in 2021 off a mark of 99 for Marcus Dragonin then. That was in the 29 run of Britannia Stakes. Since then, he's absolutely lost his way. Being far too high in the handicap, not being able to meet the heights of marks in the high 100s. Yeah, he just wasn't the same. He had a torrid end to 2021 season that carried on into 2022, where eventually at the start of this term, he was moved to Roger Varian for a fresh start, and it looks to have slightly done the trick. He got back down to a mark of 97 at Ascot in May over 7 furlongs in the Victoria Cup. He was well fancied, but he ran a really credible race. I thought he finished 7th of 22 runners. It was a nice introduction back into running well, having really not been competitive at all. He was sent into the Royal Hunt Cup, back up to a mile over course and distance, and he was actually the anti-post favourite for this race, slightly drifting before the off. But again, he ran well. He ran to a good standard, better to what he's been doing. He finished 10th of 30 runners that day, which was another stepping stone right in the right direction. Down to a mark of 94. He's lowest since June 2021, and he got back to winning ways in fine style at Sandown in the Curragh Challenge handicap that we know he's very competitive. He beat the likes of Uzo, Dutch Decoy, Revic, who have all run well since, who are very, very smart handicappers. He was then last seen at Glorious Goodwood, back up £3 to a mark of 97 on soft ground, which slightly spoiled it for him because I don't think he really, really wants soft ground. He was 7th of 20 in the Golden Mile, which again wasn't a bad run because a lot of horses really didn't get involved that day. He's only off £1 higher here, smaller field, much easier contest at a track we know he can perform at. I just thought Perotto, if he's on a going day, if he's on his most consistent day, going back to some of Ascot form, 11-4 could look a big price because he is better than these horses, I think. And 98 still being lower than a mark of 100 could still underestimate him. So Perotto, I thought, could do the business in that one. We're going to go to Newmarket now, the only event they have on ITV this Saturday, and it sees the Group 3 Sweet SOLERA Stakes over 7 furlongs. Fallen Angel tops the market, 100-30 for Carl Burke. Soprano also at 100-30 for George Bowie. Carolina Reaper for Charlie Johnston. Wild Goddess for Charlie Appleby and William Buick at 5s, and 17-2 bigger the rest. Obviously, this race, Frankie, is full of horses that we've seen this season try and break through the ranks as a 2-year-old, but we still don't know all that much about them in black type company. So who are you going for?
We don't know, but as we've spoke about since Ascot, particularly in the sprinting division, the form has seemed to hold up from the Royal Meeting, and the horses, you know, in the top 5 in those sprint races have mostly gone on to continue and race well. So Soprano gets the nod off the back of her 3rd in the Albany stakes at the Royal Meeting. Last time out, slightly disappointing, but that was over 7 and on soft ground, and I'm not sure she was enjoying it that day. She was well backed and went off favourite, and I'd imagine they thought she would have won, but I just don't think conditions suited. So back to 6, back to better ground. I'm looking at that Ascot form rather than her run last time out, and hopefully she can get back to winning ways, because she was a nice winner on debut at Newmarket. So Soprano gets the nod.
Yeah, I think you banged on there. I don't think she liked the soft ground at all, and it's going to be. It looks to me it's going to be quite dry up until racing and throughout racing at Newmarket this weekend. So should get really nice racing ground, and Soprano can bounce back to form on that ground, like you said. She's got some very good form at Ascot. The filly I went with, and this is becoming a theme for me on the Newmarket July course. It's like my eyes just pinpointed to Charlie Appleby horses, and
you're going to say that, yeah. He is so good there, isn't he? Yeah, so good. Can be losing anywhere else. You turn up to the July course and he bangs in winners.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. I think we put one up last week, didn't we? I think you had Sweet Memories for Jonathan and I had Sunset Point. Sunset Point ran a really, really good race, but just didn't quite get the win. But I'm hoping Wild Goddess can change that and basically, if you look at Charlie Appleby form, all in the media, all you hear is, oh, he's bang out of form, everything like going on in his stable, blah, blah, blah. Last 2 weeks, he's been running at a 28% strike rate. Like, because of the what he set himself, the marker he set himself over the last few seasons of hitting a strike rate of 35%, 40%, 28%, he's still very, very good. He's had 5 winners from his last 18 runners. So I've got no problem. Like I said, when it comes to the July course or even the Rowley Mile, Newmarket is his playground. He has so many winners throughout the season there. And I actually think Wild Goddess here, I can't believe a price. When you think about Charlie Appleby here, and normally his horses getting backed in the market regardless. And yes, there is horses in this field that have shown more in better races. I just think Wild Goddess hasn't had the chance to show that in better races yet. So I think her 5-1 represents massive value here. She made a debut at Haydock over 6 furlongs at the start of July, when showing some really smart form, finished just over a length back behind the winner in 4th, but 6 furlongs probably wasn't what she wanted, but it was a really good performance. She improved massively to the step up to 7 in a filly's novice stakes over course and distance at Newmarket, bolting up by 4 lengths. She reversed the form with Summit that day, which was nice to see, and she obviously took a massive step forward. Like I mentioned, she hasn't had the chance to hit the heights of some of these in the market, like your Soprano, Fallen Angel, and even Jabara has been given a chance, obviously, in a better race at Royal Ascot. But Wild Goddess, with Buick coming to Newmarket for this ride, it looks like, I thought was a massive plus as well. At 5-1, I think she's a very, very big price. I think she can get the job done. She showed a lot of ability last time out, and hopefully she can improve it again. Right then, Ascot's penultimate event of the afternoon on Saturday is the SHERGAR Cup Classic over 1 mile 4 furlongs. One of the better class of races throughout the day, Frankie, at the Berkshire track. So who in particular took your fancy?
Yeah, I've been trying to find a bit of value in the previous handicaps at Ascot, but I'm keeping this one straightforward with Rajasthan at the top of the market for John and Thady Gosden and Lady Bamford. Hayley Turner will take the ride, so can hopefully get one up for the ladies team. You've just seen this so often this season and in previous seasons, but this year more than ever, John and Thady Gosden having one well placed. Rajasthan had a good second to Cicero's Gift. I know Cicero's Gift did win comfortably that day, but quite like the fact actually that Rajasthan went off favourite. Obviously bumped into a very smart horse in Cicero's Gift and was still 3 or 4 lengths clear of third. So I don't think it was a bad performance by any means, even though beaten at 4-5 on the day. Got back to winning ways, or sorry, won the first race at Salisbury last time. Looking at that race, well, there's obviously improvement left in this horse, and Rajasthan should improve beyond a mark of 87. But the horse still looked to be a little bit babyish almost, and I think it will be rapidly improving. So it's just another case of a horse definitely, I think, having the ability to run beyond a mark of 87. Whether or not that's going to be good enough to beat the field, we'll find out. But I'd like to think that Rajasthan is going to go places bigger and better than this race.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm not going with Rajasthan, but I completely agree with everything you say, and he's solid because, like you said, John and Thady Gosden know how to place one. They place one all year round at all different tracks. some cracking form. Like I'm a huge fan of Cicero's Gift. I put Cicero's Gift up at Royal Ascot in the St James's Palace Stakes, and the less said about that race, the better, because he got no run. But that form is solid. So if you're taking that and obviously improving last time to win at Salisbury, he should be better than a mark of 87. I actually think John and Thady Gosden have the 1-2 here. And I've gone for is a horse we both actually put up last week at Newmarket, but didn't run because of the soft ground. And it's in Tinzo at 9-1. Luke Morris takes the ride. And this is purely from an each way angle, because I do think Rajasthan is solid. My only worry is, like you said, he's babyish. I know he's improving, but how quickly is he improving? And could one improve past him at this stage? And I'm not saying Intinzo's going to beat him. I just think Intinzo's I just really think if he puts it all together, he can hit the frame. He can finish in the top 3. And at 9-1, you're getting a nice price to land a bit of each way money. What I think will be the making of Intinzo, which I said last week, is a half brother to the Yars Amtiaz, who was a winner over 1 mile 4, going also a winner over 2 mile. So he will definitely get this trip. And if you look at his run last time out at Chelmsford, he was staying on all the way to the line and looked like he wanted further to me. So, yes, Intinzo probably hasn't hit the heights that John and Thady Gosden and Connections thought he would, because he ran in the Field and Stakes and he's pulled extremely hard that day, ruining any chance. He was still keen at Chelmsford, but finished his race off better. And obviously, I mentioned before that they'd like to send their good horses to Newcastle. He obviously ran at Newcastle, absolutely bolted up by over 3 lengths that day. They like this horse. They think he's very good. I think he's been waiting to run over 1 mile 4. Obviously, the last day he was going to run at Newmarket, the ground went nearly soft heavy, and I don't think he wants that. I think he wants a bit of better ground, but won't mind juicing it. So I think conditions will be absolutely perfect for him. And off a mark in 87, very much like Rajasthan off the same mark, I think they'll both be better. But because I'm getting 9-1 instead of 7-2, I've gone with Intinzo, because I still think he can improve off that mark. And just off his pedigree alone and how he ran last time out, I think 1 mile 4 and even further in the future will be the making of him. He just has to settle, because he can ruin his chances. That is the most frustrating thing about him. And that's probably why you're getting 9-1, because if he pulls his head off again, you've got no chance. And I don't know what they're going to do with him if that happens, because it's obviously a big problem. But hopefully the freshness was took out of him at Chelmsford, and he can run another good race here. So we'll see what happens. And he's a really interesting runner for me, so I can't wait to watch him and see how he gets on. The final race of the afternoon at Ascot is the SHERGAR Cup Sprint over 6 furlongs. Finishing off the card then, Frankie, who are you going for?
Yeah, I was getting ahead of myself. Then I was over at the Curragh. Just moved myself back to the final race at Ascot. Again, I'm going with an informed sprinter, 6 furlong race. Dark Troopers put in 2 really good performances, I think, last time out on varying ground. 6 furlong seems to be his bag. I'm taking the same opinion as the start. Hopefully, I can bookend the sprinting races or the card at Ascot with 2 informed sprinters, and Safi Osborne, a jockey who's in great form, gets the ride in the SHERGAR Cup. So that might be 2 in for the ladies if I'm anywhere near being right in the last 2 races.
Yeah, Safi Osborne. I watched the Racing League Thursday evening, and it just seems for that competition, she absolutely rides out.
But it's great, isn't it?
And obviously, if she stays in the same form, she's riding really well at the moment. So Dark Trooper looking for the hat trick, has got a big chance. Obviously, the interesting one here is Quinault's, isn't it? Stuart Williams, like, what is it, 6-7 races on the trot now? To do that,
crazy, isn't it? Yeah.
Let alone in decent handicaps, is very tough to do. I just think Quinault's 97 might have hit heights now. It's such a good thing to do, and fair play to Stuart Williams for doing that. And obviously running him again in another handicap, and he has been placed fairly well. Obviously, he beat Washington Heights very well last time out, but Washington Heights is different at the weights.
Yeah, I almost went for Washington Heights. Just watching the last race put me off a little bit, but if you went back to their previous races, they were a lot closer, weren't they? But Quinault just seems to be getting that much better and better. That there was a bit of a difference, wasn't it, in that race at the July meeting?
There was, but they are different in the weights now. Where Quinault was getting weight, and now Washington Heights getting weight, and that obviously is a key piece of form to watch. But disregarded that, I just think Quinault's at the top of his mark, and I hope he has for my selection, Battle Dubai, for Harry and Roger Charlton. He's fairly consistent horse, actually, only racing 6 times. He's won 3 of those races to date. And on his last start at Newcastle, he looked better than ever. He was absolutely superb. He needed his first run of the season at Windsor, went 7th in a decent handicap, beating less than 3 lengths. But despite running incredibly, I don't think that was a be-all and end-all. Just get a run into him. He's got big targets this season. He'd set him up absolutely perfectly for Newcastle. And I will mention, my only worry about this horse is a lot of his best work has come on the all-weather. So he needs to convert that to turf, but he hasn't had that many turf runs to say he's not good on turf, if you know what I mean. So I am going to give him a chance here. He's like I said, that run at Windsor set him up perfectly at Newcastle. Over a course and distance he'd previously scored at. Like I said, he's decent on the all-weather. But this time, in better company, he came from last to first in a really hot handicap to win by a head. You go back and watch that race. Oisin Murphy was on board that day. He travelled into the race like the best horse into the race, thought he was going to hit a wall of traffic, was switched out and absolutely flew home to get up by a head. But I think if he'd have been ridden closer to the pace, he could have won by 2-3 lengths. He just had to make up so much ground the last furlong, and he did. And he's only up £4 for that. He's off a mark of 92 here. I still think he looks ahead of his mark. He's a bit more less exposed than these. He hasn't run for 42 days, and a lot of these has run a little bit sooner. I think he could be just a fresher horse. And if he's in the mix come the final furlong, I think that makes him very, very dangerous because his finishing speed is absolutely superb. So Battle Dubai at 7-1 is my selection. But the one I just want to make a note of is Zaman Jamil. So I put him up at Goodwood on the first race on the Saturday. Tried to get out the stalls, was ruled out the race just before. I felt like that was my day on Saturday because I had Gand as well, who was pulled out just before in the stalls. It was just some bad luck. But Zaman Jamil, this is a very much tougher race. But where I was taking a chance on him, like in soft ground at Goodwood, and knowing that his best form's on good ground, I think he will get closer to good ground here. So I'll be foolish not to put him up again. I'm not putting him up as my selection. I just want to make a note of him here. So I think Battle Dubai has got a really big chance, but I'd be foolish if I didn't say just watch out for Zaman Jamil and he went on and won, because I'd kick myself. So yeah, Battle Dubai to me at 7s, but just watch out for Zaman Jamil at 12-1. Right then, the last race we are going to cover on this week's pod is the feature race of the afternoon. Is the Group 1 Phoenix Stakes for the juveniles at the Curragh. Last year, we saw the now retired Little Big Bear make a huge statement. And this year, Aidan O'Brien will be hoping for the same with the favourite, Unquestionable. But he has a lot of form tied in with Bucanero Forte, who joins him at the top of the market at 5-2 for Adrian Murray. Porta Fortuna, the filly who scored at Royal Ascot, is your 3-1 second favourite. Give me the beat, boys. A horse I know you liked at Royal Ascot, Frankie, at 6s. His Majesty 18s and 28-1 bigger the rest. For me, I think this race, even though Porta Fortuna was brilliant at Ascot, I just really think Unquestionable and Bucanero Forte are the keys to this race and how it unfolds. Who are you going for?
Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't say it's as straightforward as a rematch at the top of the market,
Right, yeah.
but they are the two that, I'm certainly focusing on. I think it'd be a really good race. It's funny horse racing, isn't it? Because when they met each other last time, I backed Bucanero Forte, and Bucanero Forte won, and they're racing against each other again. And I'm going to back Unquestionable. And people would be saying, how does that make any sense? You backed a horse that beat the same horse it's going to race against, and now you're jumping ship and changing your mind. But it's a funny race, wasn't it? Unquestionable looked like winning everywhere bar the line, and sometimes that happens. And obviously, Bucanero Forte has had a great third at the Royal Meeting. It was no fluke when beating Unquestionable last time out, but everything seemed to go right for Bucanero Forte, and he hit top speed at the right time. And don't get me wrong, the horse had to go and do that, but just felt Unquestionable was slightly unlucky that day. So I think that form might be reversed. I hope we get another great clash, like we did see. Maybe Ryan Moore might wait a tiny bit longer. because he was the first to go, and Buccaneer Forte just ran him down. But we'll wait and see. I don't know. When I watch that race back, I just think Unquestionable looks like he should go and win this race.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was with Unquestionable last time, and I'm sticking with him. And I actually really, really like this horse. To be honest, I thought River Tiber was going to turn up, and I thought it'd be very straightforward because I couldn't see Buccaneer Forte reversing the form in River Tiber.
I agree, yeah.
But that in itself gives me a bit of a clue as to where I know Brian thinks Unquestionable is, because he's looking for his 18th winner in this race, and Unquestionable looks to be his best chance this year. So if he's not running River Tiber and he wants to win this race again, he surely thinks Unquestionable's come on from his runs he's done this season. That was a really big factor, I thought. Look, Unquestionable has been pulled out of 2 races now. He was in the anti-post market for the Coventry. Obviously, River Tiber went instead and won. He was supposed to go to Glorious Goodwood, running the Richmond. Soft ground came, probably didn't want to run. But I don't know if they always in the back of their mind, they've thought, you know what, we have the Phoenix Stakes there. We've got Group 1 Phoenix Stakes. He's been primed for this. And I think he has. And I think even though there is showers in the end, it's good to yield in. I don't think it'll be very different than that, hopefully. I think that will suit him because he can handle soft ground, but some of his better form is on better ground. Like his first race, he finished behind His Majesty, who's obviously in there at 18-1, but that was his first run, whereas His Majesty wasn't. That was in a listed first flyer stakes, dropped into a maiden, and absolutely bolted up by 4 lengths in impressive style. That showed his true running. And like you mentioned last time, when he took on Buccaneer Forte, I'm still to this day, I don't know how Unquestionable didn't win, because everywhere bar the line, he was winning that race. And he just didn't manage to get the job done. It was really, really frustrating. But saying that, 41 days that they both haven't been seen for. It's not it's a rematch, but it's not just the be all and end all in this race. Porta Fortuna is a very, very good horse. Give me the Beat Boys. We'll be looking to reverse the form with Buccaneer Forte not finishing far behind him. It's a fascinating race, but because Aidan O'Brien has such a good record in this race and he's number 1 instead of River Tiber is Unquestionable, I think says a lot. So he's a horse I've liked anyway. I've been given some more angles to like him. That's good enough for me. So I'm hoping if he doesn't win this time, by the way, I'm jumping off. This is his last chance alone for me.
It'd be brilliant if Buccaneer Forte goes and wins for Connections and really, solidifies that form.
Yeah, it could happen. It really could happen. Yeah. We're talking about Unquestionable improving, but Buccaneer Forte could, and the more rain the more he'll prefer it because he's shown he does like softer ground. Fascinating race, fascinating contest. Very much looking forward to it. It's another good Phoenix Stakes to finish off this week's podcast. Frankie, we've been through 10 races there. Really big podcast, really. We're normally going through 7 or 8 races. But on Saturday on ITV, we have covered Ascot, Newmarket, Haydock, and the Curragh. All we need now is your nap, please, for the weekend.
I'm going right back to the start. First race that we talked about, Rogue Lightning, going up in the weights and up in caliber of horses that he's got a race against. But I just think he was so impressive last time out, and hopefully he can put in a good performance in the 135 at Ascot, Rogue Lightning.
Yeah, lovely stuff. I'm going for the race after that, the second race at Ascot, and our old favourite, Zoffy.
Nice.
Frankie Dettori on board, dropped a pound, ran well at Ascot already, ran well in the Chester Cup. Obviously, had a bit of a blip in the Northumberland plate, but I think he's the best source in this race. And off a mark of 94, already having Ascot form and dropping back to 2 miles, I think he could be very, very tough to beat. So Zoffy around the 4-1, 9-2 mark in the second race at Ascot. Frankie, thanks as always for your selections this week. Action-packed weekend of action. With group racing from 3 cars, and obviously the SHERGAR Cup shows off 6 competitive races. Please be sure to like this video, comment your selections or naps below. We want to see if you agree or disagree with us. We don't mind. We just want to see what you're going for. And make sure you subscribe so you're notified whenever the Weighing Room podcast comes out. All the best wherever you are back in this weekend, and thanks for watching.